You know, in most of our homes, there's this silent guardian hiding away in the basement. It's a total unsung hero, one that can literally save you thousands of dollars in water damage, and yet most of us completely forget it's even there. So today, we are pulling back the curtain on the sump pump and why it might just be the most important piece of equipment you're not paying nearly enough attention to.
So, why do you even need one in the first place? Well, it all comes down to fighting the #1 enemy of any basement: water. I mean, think about it. Water is a relentless threat that can lead to mold, rot, and even do some serious structural damage to your home's foundation. It's just not something you want to mess with.
So, let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest threat to your basement? Maybe a burst pipe? A leaky window? Yeah, those are definitely huge problems for sure. But the most common issue, it's actually something a little more sneaky.
It's the water you don't see coming. I'm talking about all that moisture that just seeps in from the outside after a heavy rain or when the snow starts to melt. That causes the groundwater level around your foundation to rise. And this is the stealthy intruder that a sump pump is specifically designed to defeat.
And that brings us right to the solution, the sump pump system. Now, I want you to think of it less as just some simple pump and more like your basement's own personal automated bodyguard. It's always on alert, always ready to prevent a flood.
And this quote right here, it just sums up its whole mission perfectly. It's not just about reacting to water that's already there. It's about proactively detecting it and then efficiently getting it the heck away from your home. It's protecting everything from your foundation to those boxes of old family photos.
So how does this bodyguard actually do its job? Well, to really get that, we need to pop the hood and take a look at its core components. Okay, so the whole system is really a team of key parts, all working in perfect harmony. You've got the basin, that's what collects the water. Then there's the pump unit itself, which does all the heavy lifting, a discharge path to get the water out, and then there are a few other absolutely critical players: a float switch, a check valve, and, hopefully, a backup power source. The float switch is pretty much the brains of the whole operation. It works exactly like the float in your toilet tank, you know? As water fills up the basin, this little float rises right along with it. Once it hits a certain level, bam, it activates the pump. It's a brilliantly simple idea, but it's incredibly reliable. Next up, we've got the check valve. Look, once the pump does all that hard work to push the water out, the very last thing you want is for gravity to pull it right back in. This valve acts like a one-way door, making absolutely sure that every gallon of water that leaves your basement stays out. All right, so we've met all the individual players on the team. Now let's put it all together and see how this system really performs when the pressure's on. It's actually a really beautiful, simple, four-step process. First, groundwater seeps in and starts collecting in the sump basin. Second, as that water level rises, so does the float switch, which, you guessed it, activates the pump. Third, the pump kicks into gear, powerfully pushing that water up and out through the discharge pipe. And finally, that little check valve slams shut, preventing any of it from flowing back. It's a continuous, protective cycle that just works. And that is the whole point of this entire dance. The goal isn't just to get the water out of the basement itself, but to channel it far enough away from your home's foundation that it can't just seep back in and start the whole problem all over again.
Now, a bodyguard is only effective if they're awake and ready for action, right? Well, the exact same thing is true for your sump pump. So let's talk about how you can keep your little guardian alert and always prepared.
This is where you come in. Even a fantastic piece of technology like this needs a little bit of attention to make sure it's ready for that next big storm. So what can you do to keep it in absolute peak condition?
Here's a super simple routine. About once a month, test it out. Just pour a bucket of water into the basin and make sure the pump actually kicks on. While you're down there, clean out any gunk or debris that could cause a clog. Then, pop outside and make sure the discharge pipe is clear of leaves or dirt. And, maybe most importantly, test that battery backup, because a power outage during a storm is exactly when you need that pump the most.
And this, right here, really gets to the heart of the matter. You can have the best, most expensive system in the world, but it gives you zero protection if it's clogged up or the float switch is stuck. A few minutes of regular maintenance, that's what transforms this piece of equipment into a protector you can actually rely on.
So I'll just leave you with this question. After seeing how it all works and what it takes to keep it running, take a second and ask yourself, is your basement's guardian ready for the next storm? Because the best time to check is right now, not when you hear the thunder rolling in. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.